Agree with the bed tax review. I think that's imminent, and it probably is going to need to be done. And I do like the idea that Commissioner Eggers brought up about the sheriff's portion. Now, I don't know if legally we could separate out a millage that way. I don't think we can, but we
can.
could possibly publicize
Yes.
that percentage, because the one thing in my experience, even as when I was mayor, is public safety is critically important to our constituents. Police and fire, and in my city, when they wanted to eliminate the fire department, my citizens just went up in rage that the county wanted to go to a 10 to 20 minute response time. People aren't okay with that. And so, so I think letting the public know, because the sheriff has a very large budget every year, and last year we gave him a large number for his cameras, and again this year he's got a really large number. He comes a lot with really large numbers, and so I think, and a lot of this was unfunded mandate, which is not his fault. And the contracts going up, it's inflation, not his fault. So I'm not knocking the sheriff. I don't want to do that, but I think if the public understood the cost associated with public safety, now public safety is more than the sheriff, but I really like your idea. I think he's got a really good idea. And I think publicizing the sheriff's portion, the constitutional's portions, it could be all of them, right? So the supervisor of election got an unfunded mandate. And of course, the salary increases, which is across the board, everybody needs them. And even our public comment said we need to increase the salaries. But I think there's nothing wrong with publicizing the constitutional's budget and each proposal budget to let the public know how that money, because when you back out a lot of that budget, then the county budget doesn't look quite as big. And so I really like those ideas. I think Dave had some really good points, and each one of them I think have some merit. And so I just wanted to make those comments. I think those are really, really good comments for the future to consider.
Thank you, Commissioner Peters. And I would just like to have a few minutes to make points of clarification for some of you who may not know or have been paying attention. The constitutional officers, of which the sheriff is one, are mandated in our county charter. And right now, we are going through charter review, and we have appointed our Charter Review Commission. And it seems to me that those type of discussions that Commissioner Eggers and yourself were just having might be better addressed to begin with at the charter review, since it would require, unless Jewel tells me I'm totally wrong, we'd have to do an amendment to the county charter, take the constitutionals out, wouldn't we?
We have no ability to affect the offices or roles of the constitutionals. They're provided for in the Florida Constitution.
Yeah,
We are required to provide their budget. And just for information, the tax collector and property appraiser are both entitled to a commission on the collections that they make and the assessments. So that's how their budget is done.
Correct.
Those budgets are really adopted, or approved, I should say, by the Department of Revenue.
Yep.
It does come from county funds, but there's a statutory formula that provides what that is, and it's really approved by the Department of Revenue. Kind of getting back to what Commissioner Eggers suggested and Commissioner Peters picked up on, you already see where you have the health department fund broken out as a separate millage. That's something that this board, many of you may have been here, did several years ago to do exactly what you said about the sheriff, to show what we spend to support the state health department here in Pinellas County. A Board of County Commissioners made that decision a few years ago, and that's why you see a separate millage now for the very same purpose, was to just illustrate what the amount of money that your general fund that goes to that purpose is. So we've done it before, we did it for the health department. But back to Commissioner Long, we cannot affect the roles or the duties of the constitutional officers, because the reason why we call them constitutional officers is because they're provided for in the Florida Constitution.
Right, but in the sheriff's portion of the budget, we also provide for the courts.
Some costs, yes.
Somewhat, but the statute, those are the constitutional duties and the requirements that are on the counties to support those constitutional duties are provided for in state statute. So you
There you
can't
go.
change those.
So I knew
There,
you'd straighten that out.
there are
Jewel.
discretionary
Thank
things within some of those areas where we have flexibility.
you. Okay.
But we could still publish it, right?
We absolutely could publish the sheriff separately. I actually looked, I've heard you say that before, and I would love to give the sheriff his own millage and us not to have to worry about